Hey, what's up everybody? BDF 44 coming at you with another video. Alright, so I've been trying to do everything I can to create space on my phone. As I've been telling you guys, I've been having all kinds of issues. I've deleted everything I could. Pictures, text, all kinds of stuff, man. I found myself deleting 6 hours worth of text messages this morning, dating back to before my mom's passed away. 6 years. I don't know if I said hours or years, but I meant to say years. 6 years of text, and it went back actually further than that. So for me, it's just like, did that even do a dent in regards to my space? No, of course not. So I don't know what's going on. I probably got a virus or something that keeps duplicating itself in my phone or something of that nature. But I got like 23 minutes to tell you guys. Today's my birthday. Last year of my 30s. I am 39, and I feel it. I feel 39. I'm exhausted, and I haven't really even done anything. But you know, I've been focusing a lot on my art these last couple of weeks. Of course, I tell you guys the same old thing. Nothing's really changed in that way since things have somewhat settled in my living situation. I guess you can say it's not settled at all, but more or less we're kind of in a space where we're in between what we're going to do next, and it's kind of giving me an opportunity to just kind of recalibrate and catch my breath. And in doing so, I've spent a lot of my time working out, as I always do, injuring myself and recovering. It's been some of that going on, but mostly just sharing my art like crazy, doing the art as well, and just trying to really just pick up the pieces in regards to what's next. Doing as much of this channel as I can, even though basketball season's out, so it hasn't really given me a whole lot to talk about. But there's been a lot of things that have kind of come across my timeline, but throughout the course of the last week and a half, I just haven't had the right vibes for speaking. I just didn't want to do it. I was literally in the mood to do other things that didn't require me speaking, but I always had in the back of my mind that I need to leave content up here for you guys, because that's the respect to keep your channel going. But for me, it's like I'm an artist, and so as an artist, I'm learning. The older I get, the more organic I feel my best stuff comes from. Am I wording that correctly? You know, if I do it naturally, that's when the best stuff comes. Essentially what I'm saying to you. And so I don't want to force it. I feel like a lot of times my mind will try to force content in times like this, and the content won't be as good, or I'll just babble along saying nothing instead of having something concise to say. So I just been kind of staying away and kind of focusing in on other things, because it's not like I'm sitting in a bed depressed somewhere. I'm just focused on another art form more keenly. And so as I'm continuing to do that, I guess what I'm finding is on DeviantArt, that's the art spot that I'm sending everything through and allowing people to kind of check out what I have on there. I'm finding that the algorithm is making it so that certain pieces are seen more so than others, and I'm trying to gauge whether or not that's based on the fact that those pieces are more liked than others, or is it just that the algorithm is making it so their app is making it so that these pictures happen to be the ones that are showcased wherever more people are flowing through. So that's what I'm trying to figure out, is the pieces that I'm considering to be hits, or pieces that are going viral, so to speak, have more than 90 people viewing it or whatever. That's what I'm considering viral, based on my average, which is maybe like 20 people viewing each piece, 15 to 20 people viewing each piece. When I see something go above 40, I'm like, okay, it's some appeal to it. But then I'll get one that goes like 90 people viewed it, a couple likes, and it's like, whoa, is it that this piece is better, or is it just that this is just happens to be the piece that their app ran with and showcased on the forefront for whatever? Because I post a whole lot, because I have a whole lot. So that's really what I'm trying to figure out. I guess that's where my head has been. It's just trying to gauge how liked certain pieces are versus other pieces that I think I like better, that aren't being seen as much, or maybe just people aren't just taking to as much. Maybe they're taking to it on average. And what I'm thinking is there something to that? Maybe I should read into that, or maybe I should try to post these same pieces in other places, try to see if they get the same results, same pieces. So as you can see, that's really where my head is being. It's just trying to progress in promoting my art, and that's not a whole lot not there to really converse about, really. And so when your head is in a place like that, you don't want to talk about it too much. But nevertheless, there's been some things that have kind of propped up in front of me on my phone, and you know how I am when I see something that gets my gears going. I'm gonna give you exactly what's on my mind, whether I know what I'm talking about or not. And so lately, the things that I've been paying attention to, unfortunately, has just been people passing away. A guy that I follow on YouTube periodically since Nipsey also passed away. A guy by the name of S-Bone lost his life a few days ago, victim of a murder. And so for me, that kind of jolted me yesterday. I've never met this person. I don't know anyone that he knows. But at the same time, it's like, when you see somebody speaking uplifting and you watch them over the course of several years progress from working a 9 to 5 just like you. I mean, he was doing Amazon, if I'm not mistaken, or some type of delivery service, UPS or something like that. I believe it was Amazon. And when I first found his channel, it was around the same time that I had just quit the job at the Shores, and one of my good buddies at the job was the Amazon worker. So it was like you know what I mean? It was like, this dude is on my level type of thing. Like, I could really legitimately see eye to eye as it pertains to, this person is trying to make it just like me. And to see where he was at this week, where he was able to find himself on booking big shows and having an opportunity at a big bag. And it's just like, when you see a guy finally progress, but you also see what's going on around him, and the specifics of his situation just look like, okay, the walls are kind of closing in on him. And so I don't want to get into what he had going on, but at the end of the day, he lost his life, and it looked like it probably had something to do with what was going on in his life. Even though the specifics of the situation of the story is telling us that, it's a lot of different things that could have happened. One story is saying that he lost his life in a robbery gone wrong. He was on the wrong end of the robbery and it didn't work out. But nothing about what the story seems like there aligns with what happened. They found him on some dirt road around 7:30 p.m. In Sacramento on a rural street down there, but it's a dirt road. He's from out here, you know what I mean? So it's like, for me, the way my brain works is I'm starting to see a pattern, like I always tell you guys, is a pattern of LA public figures who may have alignments with street politics losing their lives out of town. Three notable LA dudes in a matter of probably about 60 days. And so for me, it's like, all right. And none of those situations look as if anything. You know what I mean? With S-Bone situation, maybe a robbery gone wrong. That's what it looks like. Nobody to blame other than himself. He did that. Okay. And the other two situations, I think of the gentleman who lost his life at the company, Sponto, born, raised, lost his life in a car accident somewhere in New Mexico, far away from out here. You understand what I'm saying? And then Lil Sodi, and the gentleman who lost his life as well in the car with him, somewhere up in like San Bernardino or something, in a car accident. It's like, this may be nothing. Hopefully it's nothing. But my brain doesn't look at stuff like that and say, I don't see that. That's a pattern. That is a pattern. And it's probably more. Those are just the three that I'm aware of. So for me, it's just like, all right, man, I don't know what's going on. But I know that these YouTube streets, so to speak, it's a lot of misdirection. It's a lot of stuff. And you just got to be careful. Everybody does, including myself. We all do. Anybody that puts their face on this thing. If you're going to have any type of conflict of any kind, you got to understand that as I always say, there's always going to be people who are going to be able to benefit from that or be able to take advantage of that. Opportunists are going to be able to do all kinds of stuff. And in the case of S-Bone specifically, to me, it looked like he just had a little too many people angry at him at the same time. So it leaves room for people to say, you know what, it doesn't matter who gets him because you can blame everybody. And that's basically what he had going on lately. There's just too many people looking at him for different stuff. People, just, and so it could just be a situation where ultimately that opens the door for whatever could go wrong. And so for me, that's what it is, man. I've had that kind of on my mind because, of course, as a person who lives in this area, people who champion this neighborhood in this area, YouTube is a place where they're really starting to make it right now. You can see, No Jumper and various different platforms that have broken off from No Jumper and various different things like that, and made it so that a lot of the personalities are able to kind of get a bigger platform than maybe some of the local personalities in other areas, right? There's not a No Jumper in Texas. There's not a No Jumper in Chicago. You see what I'm saying? So it's like, for me, I'm looking around at this and I'm like, that's why it's something to see. But that's really all there is to say. It's looking real crazy out here, and it always is, man. As I tell y'all, LA is a very different place. And, we talked about it in my last therapy session about how I think they're bringing Rico west. And, I just feel like you're starting to see where it would probably be best for a lot of people who've been hanging on to what it is they've been hanging on to in regards to their street politics to consider the possibility of what it's going to have to look like later on to be free. What is going to be required to not spend the rest of your life behind bars. And some of the stuff that people stand on, it's not going to lead them anywhere but that, or otherwise even worse places, as we can clearly see. So that's really what it is, man. I'm not telling people that they need to just stop doing what it is that I don't understand, because I'm not from out there. I don't know. I'm one of the lucky ones, but at the same time, it's like I can clearly see my eyes are open and I'm looking around and I'm just saying, I think S-Bone said it best. It was bamboozled. I was referring to a interview that he did very recently, sitting down on Cowboy, his platform, Nothing to Something, I believe is the name of it. And Cowboy is Nipsey Hussle's friend, who was actually on scene when Nipsey was killed. He now has him, along with another gentleman, have put together a platform of their own, and S-Bone was on that platform. Just this past week, I was literally watching that interview, or fragment of that interview, 3 days ago, and that's why it's stunning, like the staggering to see what happened with S-Bone. Not to mention, been watching him leading up to this ever since. I've been keeping up with the guy pretty much. So, it's one of them situations where it's like he was referring, when he said that, to the conflict between brothers, the whole war outside. Essentially, it's a lie. We are not each other's enemy. We've been taught this. We've kept this going, and we've learned to respond to our pain according to what it is that's taking place in these circumstances and within these battles. But at the end of the day, it was never natural for black people to be fighting one another, and that was essentially what he was saying. He had bought into that. He was raised in that, and now it had taken his life. He was essentially telling us that without actually professing he was going to pass. Essentially what he's saying is this is what I'm married to, and I know it's some bull crap. He had been bamboozled, hoodwinked, and so that's what I look at. I'm lucky enough to know better, to not have been raised where I could not do better regardless. And then from there, I could speak to what it is I see from the outside of the situation and just say, look, I see what they're trying to do, man. And I don't know which way is up for people who are trying to make it on both the internet and outside. I don't know how one would expect anything other than these type of outcomes when you try to blend those two worlds. That's what it really comes down to. And so when I look at Adam 22 and what he's trying to do, and knowing that he's the centerpiece surrounding all of this, regardless if he wants to be or not, just based on him being the hub of Los Angeles's social media urban network. He's the hub of it all. And with this kind of stuff happening, I would just tell him, at the end of the day, this is what happens when you bring that world to the internet. We see what happens for real in that world. And what that world's gonna have to understand is you cannot survive on the internet. Because the essence of what you do needs to keep it so that others' eyes are not watching what you're doing. And the very essence of clout in the internet is so that we have surveillance on you while you're living your life. So the very essence of trying to stay free while doing so is an oxymoron that you have to be very much warped in, like, as in on some as I've once said, hypnotism stuff, to actually believe is anything other than you ending your life behind bars or ending it all entirely doing that. There's no other way. So for me, it just seemed like S-Bone and several others, regardless if they're walking that thin line or jumping over it, they tried to mix those two worlds, and I don't think it ends too many other ways than this. And so that's what I'm really here to say. Unfortunately, I would love to say I was surprised, but that I was not. It crossed my mind more than once while watching that interview Monday morning with him sitting there. It crossed my mind more than once that he might lose his life very soon. Not necessarily because of anything specific, just because I know the nature of the lifestyle. And anytime you're dealing with gang members, you got to expect death soon. That's what LA has taught me, y'all. Whether people want to glorify this or not, whether you think about joining the gang or not, whether you don't see that, whether you think you're the toughest and you can't be touched, whether you shoot better than everybody, whatever your role is, how big your gang is. It's one thing I've learned, living 39 years in Los Angeles, it's one thing that's consistent with gang lifestyle, and that is death. Death comes first, before anything else. Please understand that you signed up for that. I can't tell you over the years, whether it be through hearsay or people I've literally known, how many people have stood tall on gang stuff and passed away. How many figures in my mind I think of with a gang's mentality and a gang sacrifice on their heart, who literally had to lose their life. I can't tell you. It's synonymous with such. That's why for me, when I was a child, that gangbanging and that the lifestyle and the culture, it was cool to me. No different than the East Coast Wu-Tang energy. It was no different. It was just a lifestyle to look up to because they were cooler than everybody else, and this is what they told us to respect. There's the people who could kill the fastest and who could sell the most and get the girls. But as you grow older and you start realizing how much pain and how much time gets attached to those personalities and those people, you start realizing that ain't cool no more. When you start getting older and you start seeing the years and you start seeing the deterioration of the people who engage in that energy, how their lives get tossed away, what happens to them, how they end up getting thrown in jail or end up losing their lives, and what happens to their children. It's like, yo, that's nothing to want. That's why I've gotten to a point where I speak the way that I do, because it's like, yo, what young people think is cool, they're gonna grow to find out is not necessarily cool, but more so just stuff that wears people out, makes them age. Like literally, stuff that'll make you look like you're 50 when you're 35. So a lot of the stuff that people think is cool, it's the same stuff they need to avoid in order to not die sooner, like literally. And so for me, it's like, you just don't look at it the same way. Because you know what happens after you're 25. You know what happens after you're 30. You see the wear that comes from 30 to 35 when you've lived a certain way in your 20s. You're not interested in telling people to go down those paths only to find the walls that they're going to run into. That's why I'm like, yo, that gangbanging stuff ain't nothing to lead your kids to, and you know it. If you're trying to strengthen your numbers to make your situation bigger, it's an entirely different story. But if you're just trying to lead people out there because you think it's cool, you better look at the person next to you. You better look at the person right at you. And tell me where they're going to be at 6 years from now. Just keep watching them 6 years from now. And if you keep that lifestyle up, it's going to be one of y'all that's going to be gone, and the other one's going to be in jail. I've seen it too many times. Man. And so for me, it's like I'm not moved by that. And if you look at some of these dudes on the internet, they're trying to get into the internet, off of the streets, or play both sides, because that's their way to get out of that stuff. If it was so damn cool, it wouldn't be too many of them trying to get the hell out of it. Least of all, walking into surveillance to do so. That speaks of desperation, if you ask me. If you really consider the psychology of it all. To get out of the streets, they're going to walk into a camera. Culture has us thinking backwards. But at the same time, it's giving street dudes an outlet. And I respect that. But it's just the same. With that, you have to be able to sacrifice what otherwise should be done only in the dark when you step into surveillance. Or don't be confused when you get caught up in whatever you get caught up in. No matter what comes out of your mouth, if you're going to live a certain way, you're going to find a certain consequence. And that's the bottom line. Impact, words, and example, all of that will be as it is. But your lifestyle is going to be aligned with your choices. So if you're not reading energy correctly, you don't understand what will create the angst that ultimately gets you knocked off. If you don't know what is considered inconsiderate to others and what will ultimately back you into a corner, or if you're not prepared for what otherwise comes with certain things that you welcome into your life, then you're going to be blindsided by your fate. I tell you that I don't think S-Bone was blindsided by his fate. I watched his last video and it looked to me he was signing out. He knew what he was signing up for based on the circumstances he found himself in. Not to say that he expected to leave, but he knew, I believe he knew what came with what was going on in his world. I prayed about that last night, and I hope that that's the case. But I get the feeling that it was, just from watching that tape. So, I send good energy to his loved ones and family. Hopefully they can find justice for him. But given the world he was in, who knows what justice really looks like in these circumstances. And that's the evil of that lifestyle. That's pretty much all I can say about that, man. I'm going to go celebrate my birthday right now. I want to thank everybody for watching BDF 44. And I'm out.